Good morning and welcome to Wisdom of the World. The last couple of months I've been telling stories from India. Today's story is going to be a story from Africa, from Zulu in South Africa. The story is called The Pig and the Disrespectful Man. And it goes as follows. Kwasuke sukela. Once upon a time. The storyteller's words took wings and excitement grew in the young audience who was seated around her. Kosi, Kosi, they replied, little by little. And with the full sun behind him, the story begins. On the north side of the Tugela River, which flows from the mighty mountains into the sea, lived a handsome young man who had a beautiful girlfriend. Both boys and girls in the area were in awe of her beauty that shone from within. Just before dusk one day, as the setting sun cast its last light on the gently flowing landscape, the young man was walking beside the river when he saw a pig dragging itself up the river bank. It struggled to climb the slippery slope with its short legs, but when it was free, it ran towards the young man. He was so disgusted by the sight of the pig, which dropped a smelly trail of mud behind it, that he spat on the earth in front of the pig. This offended and angered the sludge-stained pig so much that rage rose in the animal. Then it said, "Young man, one day when a person spits at you, see how you feel." The handsome boy looked at the pig standing in front of him and, instead of feeling guilty about what he had done, he laughed out loud, mocking the pig. The pig looked dejected and was saddened by the attitude of the young man who came from a respectable home. Food was always freely available in his household and he lacked nothing. In fact, he thought so highly of himself that he didn't believe the pig's words. He even doubted whether anyone would ever lift an eyebrow to him, let alone spit at him. As he turned to walk away from the pig, the young man saw people walking among the shadows not far from him. They had just finished harvesting their crops in the fields, and near him was a sack of corn. As he looked at it, his eyes were drawn to a brown rat, the color of earth. He noticed its whiskers twitching as it tried to make a hole in the sack. Impulsively, the young man kicked the rat, and when it landed some distance away, it was dazed. And when the poor rat came to its senses, it cried out, "Young man, you have not lived long. One day you'll be starving like me, and people will kick you away from the food you're eating, just like you did to me. You'll see what it is like." As the young man stared at the rat, a smile appeared on his face, and he looked scornfully at the tiny animal. "Pride comes before a fall," said the rat as it scuttled into the long grass. But the young man just laughed at the rat, not paying attention to its words. When the following spring turned to summer, the young man was invited by a mediator to accompany him to his girlfriend's house. As they traveled over the hills, the mediator said to the young man, "Listen to me now. Do not make a pig of yourself at your future in-law's house. You must never be greedy and overeat at their home. Do not take advantage of their hospitality. The young man smiled at the older man as he spoke. I will kick you gently when I feel that you have eaten enough. That is the signal for you to stop eating, he said. Soon after the two travelers' arrival at the in-laws' house, a generous meal was served, and the meat and dumplings made the young man's mouth water. His long journey had made him very hungry. While he was enjoying the meal, a dark gray cat brushed against his foot, and he politely stopped eating at once, as he was instructed to do. But when he looked around, he was surprised to see that everybody else was still eating. After eating, the visitors were told where they would spend the night, and as the young man had eaten very little, he was still starving. He watched carefully to see where the pots of food were taken. I'm so hungry, he thought. I'd love to eat some more of those delicious dumplings. As he was being led to his sleeping place, the young man thought that he would go and find the food pots when everybody was asleep. He waited impatiently until the frenetic activity of the household had died down, and then, assuming that everyone was asleep, he crept quietly to the place where the pots were kept. He looked everywhere, but he couldn't find a spoon, and because he was so desperately hungry, he tilted the pot directly towards his mouth, supporting it with both hands. And when the hunger pangs were gone and he felt satisfied, he tried to pull his head out of the pot, but it was stuck. When he was guzzling the food, the pot's handle had slipped over his head. The young man was frantic as he thought of ways to get himself out of his predicament, but nothing worked. Eventually, in desperation, he decided to sit against the fence and wait until morning, bemoaning the fact that he couldn't sleep like that. When the first barking dogs aroused the members of the household from their deep sleep, the young man felt humiliated that people would see him like that. When local people came into the yard and saw him, they sniggered and laughed out loud and invited everyone from far and wide to come and look at him. Someone spat at him, and one person even tried to kick him. The handsome young man was so full of shame. When a member of the household succeeded in pulling the pot off his head, the young man disappeared as fast as a bolt of lightning striking the earth. This tale was told in many households, and all the young people living in that region on the north bank of the Tugela River heard it. The young man's reputation was so tainted that he never found another girlfriend, and he was embarrassed by the fact that the words of the pig and the rat had come true. Q. This story comes from this book, Folktales from Africa. Thank you.